Trish, do you want me to kick it off and you drive
Yes,
slides?
please.
Okay,
Yes, absolutely.
sounds good. Good morning, everyone. My name is Hannah Stone. I'm Associate Director of College Counseling at Montgomery Bell Academy in Nashville. And this is actually my first drive-in workshop as kind of in a chair admin level. So pretty exciting. So I'm really looking forward to the information that we have today. Going to have some really great sessions on a variety of really relevant topics to our profession. But first, a shameless plug to our 2026 SACAC conference in New Orleans. Registration is currently live, so would highly recommend if you are able to pursue that opportunity. It really is amazing, a chance to network. And then Trish, if we could go to the next slide. And again, I introduced myself, Hannah Stone, and then with me is Trish Culver, who is one of the wonderful University of Tennessee Knoxville regional admission counselors in the greater Metro Nashville area, who is our co-host this morning.
Good morning, everyone.
All right. And of course, happy National School Counseling Week. So I do think a majority of us attending today are on the high school side. And thank you all for all you do in serving our students, making sure not only that they have resources for college prep, but also the other work that goes along with it in terms of managing that social emotional health as well. Not an easy undertaking, but very rewarding too. Okay. Was that the Trish, you're muted.
Thank you. It's been a while since I've been on a Zoom since like this fall. It's like riding a bike though, right?
Yeah.
So we would love to kick this event off with our first presenter, Carly Stafford Dixon. She is the Associate Director of College Counseling over at the University School of Nashville. She is going to present a wonderful session regarding AI and how is it really going to work in the day to day or the college search process that you are going to be embarking on with your students in the future. So Carly, I'll unshare and it is your show.
Okay, great. Let me share my window here. Okay. I don't really know how to get a show of hands via Zoom, but I'm wondering, Hannah and Trish, if you can share like what percent are from the high school side and what percent are from the college side, if you know.
I would say when I checked yesterday, and this could have changed this morning, I would say we're overwhelming majority high school side.
Okay, awesome. That's what I do too. I'm associate director at University School of Nashville, just down the street from Hannah. And so thanks everyone for being here this early morning. This session isn't going to be about turning students into robots or turning ourselves into robots or even outsourcing our judgment. It's more about how we can use AI to reduce friction, increase access, democratize the college search process, and gain back time for ourselves. Because I'm sure if there's one thing we feel short on right now, aside from energy, it's time. And I want to be very clear from the start that AI doesn't replace thinking, it doesn't replace relationships, and it certainly cannot replace professional judgment. And it works best when you, as a counselor, already have something to say and when students already have something to say. So as we go into this, I'm going to have some time where I'll drop a few optional prompts and you'll have time to kind of play in ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude or whatever your AI of choosing is. So this is completely optional, but I think it will enhance your experience in this. All right. So quick overview, why it matters, what it means to use well or use AI well, excuse me. AU or AI in the college search, helpful prompts, a bit of rec letter assistance, and then some practical takeaways for counselors. Okay, so why this matters now. AI became it started to become big about 3 years ago. I think 3 years ago at SACAC was the first time we really started to talk about it at that conference. And it's only gained momentum. AI itself has existed for a very long time. Like if you remember paperclip, that's a form of artificial intelligence. Your navigation in your car, that's a form of artificial intelligence. So when I talk about AI broadly in this session, what I'm referring to is generative AI. So that's um, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, the type of AI that can generate thoughts, images, essays, whole books, movies, etc. So AI has been used in the college process for years now, and it will continue to exist whether we engage with it or not. As I'm sure a lot of you have seen, whether you're on the high school CBO side or the college side, students are experimenting. I have seen a lot of creative uses of AI. Teachers are overwhelmed, and counselors and teachers are also experimenting. We're all sort of navigating unclear boundaries. If we were in person right now, I tried to get a head count of how many of your schools have official AI policies. And even digging into that, how many of your individual departments have AI policies? A lot of schools don't. So we're navigating unclear boundaries. And then there's inconsistent responses from colleges. I think there's a lack of info right now about if colleges are using AI to evaluate essays, to what extent. We know of one college that when generative AI became big, they stopped evaluating the college essay for writing quality and just for content. But there's no real universal boundary for AI. So this matters more than ever. Just to get into some stats and data, because this is my love language. Um, 86% of high school students reported using AI during the 2024 to 2025 school year. 70% of teachers and college faculty cite declines they've seen in critical thinking and increased academic integrity issues tied to AI. I know I'm preaching to the choir here. I'm sure many of you, whether on the high school or the college side, have seen academic integrity issues with AI. 1 in 3 college applicants in the cycle before last, so I'm assuming this number is higher now, but 1 in 3 admitted using an AI tool for help on admissions essays. And then 90+% of students already have access to AI tools. The question is not if they'll use them, but whether they'll use them thoughtfully, ethically, and with guidance. And that's where we come in. All right. Sorry, if you can hear anything in the background, that's my dog who thinks it's a really good time to play with her toy. So let's first create a shared definition together of what it means to use AI well. So ethical and appropriate AI use, brainstorming, organizing, reflecting, synthesizing, that is all totally fine because it's not generating thoughts for you. Bad AI would be ghostwriting. This could be students with their essays, us with our letters of rec. Ghostwriting, fabricating, outsourcing your thinking, that is unethical use of AI. Here's what AI is bad at. Authentic voice. I think we all know when we're reading AI slop, if I'm going to put it casually. AI is bad at understanding the context of a specific school or counselor relationship, and that's what you shine at. AI is bad at judgment calls, nuance, ethics, fit, and it's really bad at replacing lived experience. So here's the balance and where it lives. AI should be used to generate a student's or sorry, AI should not be used to generate a student's or a counselor's thinking, but to augment and clarify thinking that already exists. So in short, AI is a thought partner and not a thought generator. So one of my litmus tests I use is like if I'm wondering if I'm crossing a line when using it, like am I still the primary one doing the thinking? If yes, and if I'm just using AI as an asset, that's okay. If I'm not the primary one doing the thinking, or if my student isn't the primary one doing the thinking, we've crossed a line and it's time to step back. Okay, so I basically just went over a lot of this, but essentially what AI is bad at is what you shine at as a counselor. So AI can't replace you. It can't replace your knowledge of your school or community, the context. It can't replace the nuance of student growth. That's something you see day to day. It can't replace your judgment ever. And it can't replace authentic voice without guidance. So hopefully we're all at a shared understanding here. So, diving into part three, the juicy stuff, AI and the college search. So, a common thing we often hear, and I'm sure a lot of us are starting to work with juniors in the process, like, I don't know what I want in a college, or maybe like, I don't know what I want, but I know what my parents want, or I know what my society expects. So, this is how a lot of students feel entering the college search process. And as you know, as counselors or on the college side, it takes a lot of time to help a student figure out what it is that they're looking for. So, common pain points at this part in the process, students have very vague preferences. Like, I don't want a small school. Okay, what does small mean? Do you mean small student body, small campus? Very vague preferences. An over-reliance on rankings. If a student says, I want to go to a top school, what do you mean by top? How do you operationally define that? Who gets to decide what schools are at the top? And then list paralysis, focusing on having this perfect list. And this leads to just a ton of paralysis overall. So, this is where AI can become a really helpful tool for you and for your student. Hold on. Hannah or Trish, can you confirm that you can still see my screen?
Yes,
Uh,
you are visible.
Okay, great. I did something and I don't know what. All right. So let's think about some prompting. Okay, so we like to start, like when I work with my students, we like to start with the why. Like, why do you want to go to college? What are your values? What values are you looking for in a school? So oftentimes students already know like how they want to feel in college, what environments have helped them thrive, like in high school and middle school, what stresses them out in high school, but they don't often or they don't always know how that translates into criteria. And that's what AI and good prompting can help with. It can translate student feeling into search criteria, into trade-offs, and into language that we already use. And again, I talk about this as a way of democratizing college counseling. This also helps students who don't have adults at home with college savvy language. This can help them articulate those criteria. So, some powerful prompts. So, section one, finding the college why and what. And these slides will be available to you after, so you don't need to scramble to take these notes down. If you're interested in these prompts, they'll be in the slides. So, I think that these prompts are best for juniors and early seniors who are really stuck in creating their lists or defaulting to just external validators like US News and World Report, Forbes rankings. So, starting with values. So, this is where I'm going to ask you all to open up your AI engine of choice and put in the first prompt. So, help me reflect on why I want to go to college. Ask me thoughtful questions, follow-up questions one at a time, and help me identify a pattern in my answers. So this is something I do, and our office does with all of our juniors. So when we're thinking about the college why, we have students get in the practice of using AI as a thought partner instead of a thought generator. So I'll give you all 30 seconds for this while you do it, and I will also do it on my own account. So help me understand why I want to go to college. Assume I am a high school junior. Ask me questions one at a time. It's always so affirming. Wow, love this. Okay. Imagine myself at age 25. Gosh, that's so far in the future. What are you doing on a random Tuesday? So, not working at a desk. So you can go through this exercise yourself. you can go through this with your students. I do think before you intro something to your students, it's really helpful and important to go through it with yourself. I could keep doing this. I think this would probably be wildly boring for you, but take about 20 more seconds and just play with this prompt for a minute. And then if anyone wants to do a brave share out in the comments, you are encouraged to. You're also welcome to try out prompt 2 or 3 as well. So prompts 2 and 3 we find really helpful with our juniors, because oftentimes like the human brain loves series of 3. So when we ask a kid, what do you want in a college? They'll often be like, okay, I want it to be in a sunny place and a medium student body and good school spirit, or like good psychology program. Like, what does that even mean? The human brain loves to default to 3s. And so having kids ask Chat or Gemini to ask them questions one at a time to help them identify criteria helps to actually generate a stronger list of criteria. So we typically let our students play with this for about 20 minutes, and then we say, okay, now tell Chat to turn this into a list of criteria. We're lucky to be able to do this in a college seminar, but if you work with a lot of students and you don't have college seminar time in your curriculum, which I think is probably most folks, this is a fine homework assignment to give to a student. And their homework that's due to you could be to give the list to you of what Chat or Gemini has identified as that student criteria. That could be a perfect thing to do before an initial meeting, having the responses to these prompts from Chat on the college why and the criteria. So something to think about that can help you get to know the student even better and their college why even better before they come into your office. Here are some other examples of prompts. Help me identify moments in high school when I felt most engaged, confident, or proud. What do those moments suggest about what I want from college? Just a plug for your brag sheet and a plug for rec letters. If students save these conversations, you can read their responses to these prompts and see really valuable moments of insight and introspection that you can use in your rec letters. And then another prompt, help me separate what I want from college versus what I feel pressured to want by friends, family, or social media. Any questions about these prompts so far? Okay. Okay, so identifying core values is also a big strength of students and any sort of AI engine. So I think that values are incredibly important in this process, especially as colleges, um, I'm trying to phrase this exactly right at like 8 in the morning. I think making sure that a student's values match the values of their colleges is more important than ever right now. So here are some more prompts about identifying core values. So help me identify my top core values related to college. Ask me scenario-based questions rather than just giving me a list of values. This is good because it avoids very general values. Like, I want a place with good community and leadership opportunities and excellence. Like, let's dive into what that actually means to the student. Help me think through trade-offs between prestige, cost, location, and personal fit. Ask me which trade-offs I'm willing and unwilling to make. Values to criteria translation, which we talked about. Finally, help me turn my values into concrete college search criteria I can actually use. And again, this is really helpful when there's maybe not a college savvy adult at home who can help students turn this into language around a college search. This is where AI comes in to democratize and equalize the process. So an example output, like the value is community, that criteria could be like small discussion-based classes, residential campus, a very student-forward type college. Hopefully this is making sense. Okay, talking about college fit and belonging, which is a natural next step after values. I'm getting back to my notes here, one moment. So, prompt 9, I love this one. Help me think through what belonging means to me in a college community and how I might evaluate that during visits or research. I don't know about fellow college counselors in the audience, but one area where my students really seem to struggle, no matter how many tools we give them, is actually taking notes about a college they're doing virtual research on or in-person research on. So if they can have chat help them define their criteria and use that criteria as a place to take notes, like, does it check this box? How can I evaluate if this fits my criteria during my research? If chat can help them create that sort of framework, it makes it so much easier for your students to take notes, which helps them down the line for supplemental essays or for a final list. And it helps you down the line saying, like, oh, you appreciated the nature on Barry's college campus. Here are some other schools that have those similar values, etc. And then this is a really important one too. I think especially as we prioritize student safety in the process. Prompt 10, help me identify the types of support systems I should look for in a college based on my identity, learning style, and needs. This is often something students might not automatically think about as a top criteria, but feeling safe is incredibly important, and feeling like your identity is valued is really important. And I just saw something in the chat.
Yes, I
Oh,
had
yeah.
said that if anyone is also currently using some AI strategies in their college search process and they feel like they have some awesome prompts, feel free to drop them in the chat and we can share them with everyone.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you, Trish. So I'm going to give you all another minute um, to pick one of these prompts. Let's do, let's see. Let's go back to prompt number 2. So ask me questions one at a time to help me identify what is important to me in a college. So take like 2 minutes to do that. I think I might have said 1 minute, but I'm going to let you have two. And then I might call on someone for a share out in the comments. Let me see. I will try to message you personally to see if you're willing to do a comment share out. Okay. I've just selected a participant and message, so check your messages. Okay, so I'll wait for um my message recipient to respond, but feel free, keep playing with these prompts. If you use them with students, I'd love to hear about how that goes. Let's talk a little more about how you can use it as a counselor. So, after prompting and the subsequent criteria it generates for a student, that's when the college list comes. So we want to think about moving from the why college to the what a student wants in college. That's the criteria. Then to the where. So this is how we can reframe AI and college lists. So AI is not a list builder, but a list explainer. Oh, amazing. Justin is going to share out with the group, I guess via chat, maybe just a portion of your conversation. Does that work, Justin? Okay, amazing. Everyone, round of applause for Justin.
Carly, as we're waiting for Justin's prompt to come up, I recently read the article in NACAC by Angel, the president, and he had mentioned about AI and not relying solely on the source of AI. So utilizing these prompts in moving forward with students, how would you suggest your students utilize or our students utilize prompts in a way to really kind of find the best fit? Because that was the thing that he was really kind of honing in on the article is that like AI is not going to replace us because in a sense, we're the experts. We know the college campuses, we know the vibes, we know the curriculums, we know the ins and outs of the campuses and universities that our students are putting on their list. But how can they really utilize these prompts in ways that they can really work it to be the best fit, to find the list of schools that can be the best fit?
Mm-hmm. So I think that's a really good question. If a student's able to use these prompts and come up with a really solid list of criteria that goes beyond like size and location, they can use those criteria to find a best fit. Um, like not just relying like, okay, let me put these criteria into chat, generate a list, but taking that list to their counselor at their CBO, to their high school, like taking that list of criteria, like and saying, I've done some work thinking about my values, thinking about what's important to me in a college based on what's been important to me in high school. Here's what I've come up with and taking that list to their counselor, trusted adult CBO advisor, and that using that to help frame the conversation. So yeah, acknowledging that it doesn't replace us, it won't replace us. I'm like willing that into existence, but it can help us find common ground with the students, especially when the students become familiar with those terms about college criteria. Okay, so thank you, Justin. I'm going to read Justin's response out loud. So this is from Chat GPT. So Chat says, I love this. Let's do it slowly and thoughtfully, like a real reflection, not a checklist. So, question one, when you imagine yourself 5 to 10 years from now, what do you hope your life looks like? Not just your job, but your sense of purpose, stability, freedom, impact, or fulfillment. And Justin writes, I want to be free from college debt and make a lot of money because I'm a first gen low income student. That's awesome. So immediately off the bat, chat gets that. Like, okay, this is a big priority is socioeconomic mobility. And then chat comes back and says, that makes a lot of sense. It's very consistent with what you've shared so far. Here's what I'm noticing already. Your core motivation for college isn't prestige or exploration, it's economic security. College is a tool, a way to protect yourself and your family from instability. Being first gen and low income isn't just background, it directly shapes what success means to you. And chat goes on to ask, what specific fears or stresses are you hoping college will help you avoid in the future? And Justin goes on to answer. So thank you, Justin, for being a willing volunteer slash voluntold. Justin used to work with me at USN and is an amazing counselor. I hope you all get to meet him at some point. So this kind of goes back to what Trish and I were talking about. So AI isn't a list builder, that's our job and that's students' jobs, but it is a list explainer. So I don't know if you all have ever been in the place where you give a student and a family a list that you've worked really, really hard on, and they're like, I've never heard of any of these schools. I want a new list. It's a frustrating experience for sure, and this is a time when we can use AI as a partner. So, okay. Sammy, I hear that you didn't understand or hear that you haven't heard of any of these schools. Let's sit down together and let me explain like why these are on your list. Or if you're not there in person, Sammy can put that list into chat and say, Chat, my college counselor suggested these. I don't understand why. Help me figure out how they align with their criteria, so, or with my criteria. So that's kind of doing the reverse of it. And that chat is extremely good at comparing schools, explaining why a school might fit this student's criteria, and therefore helping families understand counselor logic. Yeah, and thank you again, Justin. Okay, so part four, here's where we come in, rec letter assistance. Um, the reality of recs, and hopefully many of us are in a place right now where we're not writing recs and we have a couple more months till we're writing them, but we're all overwhelmed. Common struggles, at least for me, remembering specifics, organizing my anecdotes, like, oh, I had this great rec fodder where I was able to see Sean play in a basketball game. Like, but where would that go? Would I be talking about his leadership, communication, translating observations into admission language? And then I think the biggest one for all of us is time constraints. We are so short on time and we have a lot of demands on our time. So where we can, it is okay to use AI to assist you with your letters of recommendation, but let's talk about the ethics of that. So just as an overall picture, AI can't create like better students for us. It can't create more information on students for us, but it can help us communicate more clearly about the students that we already know. So here's how we can use AI. It's a professional writing assistant and it's not an author. The first thing, it's not actually on the slide. I think it's in a later slide. The first thing I wanted to say out loud is that you should never be inputting identifying information about a student into AI. That is crossing a line, that is a boundary that we need to keep. You should never be doing that. Think about like the headlines test. Like if this made the news tomorrow, like Carly Dixon put in a ton of identifying information about a student into ChatGPT, would you feel good about that headline? No. So don't put identifying student info into chat. You can swap out names, never put birthdays. You can use any sort of like swap system you want, but no identifying info. So here's how it can help you. It can help you synthesize a large volume of counselor notes, organize brag sheet responses. It can help you identify themes across years of interaction, like something that's shown up over and over again, and maybe you couldn't quite put a name to it, but it's earnestness or it's consistency. Organize messy inputs into coherent structures. I don't know about you all, but sometimes my notes are a mess. It can check your letters for clarity, flow, and redundancy. Again, make sure identifying information is out of there before you have chat check it. And it can save you time on mechanics so that you can focus on the important work, which is actually meeting with students. Most of us are already juggling these brag sheets, meeting notes, emails, questionnaires, and informal observations. So AI can really help us synthesize these existing materials into something that will help us with the rec. It's not going to replace our perspective, but help us manage volume and complexity so that we can write stronger and more intentional letters in less time. So a couple of prompts. Summarize key themes from these meeting notes and brag sheets. Help me organize these anecdotes into a logical narrative. Identify strengths that appear consistently across my notes. Like, okay, Trish is reliable, she's consistent, she's organized. These are themes that have consistently shown up in our meetings. Edit this draft for clarity and flow without changing the voice. Point out any redundancy or gaps in the letter. So, clear boundary. AI can help me say what I already know, but it should never invent, exaggerate, or replace my judgment. So just notice that none of these prompts are asking AI to create new information. All of these prompts assume that the content already exists in our notes, in our observations, in our questionnaires, brag sheets, relationships. AI is simply helping us surface patterns and express them more clearly. So, appropriate inputs can include anonymized student brag sheets or questionnaires, anonymized notes, teacher feedback or quotes when appropriate, activities lists or resumes, and what I love, like reflections that students have already written. Okay, I did promise I'd put it in writing. Use de-identified information, never upload sensitive documents, and treat it as a confidential drafting space, but not a database. So I did create a document, like two fake brag sheets for fake students that I can put in the chat. Hopefully everyone can use this link. So your homework later, if you want, we have a case studies program at USN, so we made a number of fake files, and so I made a brag sheet for two of these fake students. So these are fake names, not real people. So I am going to drop this in the chat. Hold on. And I'm not sure. Hopefully everyone will be able to see the chat. Okay, everyone. There we go. So I'll want you guys to practice and maybe take 2 minutes now, actually, um, to pick one of the students, either Emily or Sammy, either of these brag sheets. You could copy and paste it into chat. Maybe practice not using their name, even though these are totally fake students, and ask one of the prompts. So maybe help me like summarize key themes about this student. Identify strengths that appear consistently across this brag sheet. Help me determine what strengths of these students I should highlight in a rec letter. So these are just two example brag sheets you can use, and you can practice with them in ChatGPT or in Perplexity or Gemini. Practice with these brag sheets and seeing what you can pull out. Okay. Let's see. And then a note I wanted to add, AI works best when it's working with materials that already exist. So you are not asking it to invent stories. We're asking it to help us organize what we already have documented. And I'll just out myself here right now. I was working with a kid a few years ago who I really struggled with. The student never filled out questionnaires. Wasn't super interested in engaging in the college process. And so I wanted to do a great job writing a rec for him, but I didn't have a lot of content. So I put what I had, like de-identified info, into chat and I said, hey, can you help me just start to organize a letter for this student? I don't know him well and I want to do him justice. And it made up this entire fake story about this student, let's call him Luke, like getting up in front of the whole school at assembly to talk about his Egyptian heritage. The student was not Egyptian. I had never given it any info that would make chat make that impression. It has gotten better in the last few years, but it did completely fabricate a story. So you can be firm like in your back and forth and say you are not allowed to make up stories. Like that is a key part in maintaining boundaries during this is making sure that the content is true and that chat isn't fabricating stuff because it does love to invent. Okay, hopefully this is making sense. Hopefully these prompts are helpful and the fake brag sheets are helpful. I'll just do an example while I'm thinking of it. And again, just like Trish said, it's been a while since I use Zoom, and so it is kind of like riding a bike, but a very wobbly bike. So I'm going to copy and paste all of Emily's brag sheet content, and I'm going to ask it, I'm going to say, please, in fact, I'll open a new chat. Please pull out some central themes from this student's brag sheet that would be good to highlight in a letter of recommendation. I'm just going to paste the brag sheet. Okay, so it's identifying some themes, intellectual curiosity rooted in systems thinking. You might think, what is that? Oh, it's pointing out like the political, legal, and democratic systems that Emily has been talking about. Scholar of moral complexity and ethical gray areas, early identity as lawyer in the making, high trust leadership, excellence under pressure, civic-minded citizen. So it's pulling all of this from the student's brag sheet, and maybe these are definitely things that you, as a bright and wise counselor, could have come up with. Sorry, I just got a call at my computer, but it might have taken you a lot of time to like really synthesize these themes and put them into words. So this in 10 seconds, it's pulling out these themes from a student brag sheet. All right, back to the slides, and we're almost wrapped up here, and I'll have time for questions. So, part five, practical takeaways, like here's what we can do tomorrow, basically. Normalize AI use. Uh, I think I've been saying this for a few years. A number of us have been saying this for a few years, but AI is not going anywhere. And we can either be afraid of it, or we can totally embrace it, or we can do something in between, which is educate ourselves about AI and educate our students about AI because it's going to be a part of our lives and their lives forever. So we can normalize AI use and show students how to use it responsibly and model that behavior. We can provide approved prompts for students. You are welcome to use any of the prompts in these slides. There's great prompt banks out there on the internet. Addie is an AI tool that some college counseling offices are adopting. It is not free, but it has great prompts for students. So you can provide prompts for students. You can name boundaries explicitly. I don't think it's on our college counseling website, but we have AI boundaries and guidelines defined for our students in terms of what they can and cannot use AI for, when they need to declare it in the college process, etc. UCAS, that's the university college system, like basically Common App for the UK. They have really good AI guidelines if you're looking for a model. And finally, reframe AI always as a thought partner and not a thought generator. It can't generate your thoughts for you, but it can help you understand your thoughts, help you synthesize those thoughts, etc. So this leaves us with about 7 minutes for questions. Um, you can put them in the chat. You can direct them to Trish and Hannah, who can send them to me, but I would be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, so it looks like Jason, thank you for waiting patiently with your hand raised. If you have a question, if you could drop it in the chat, that would be really great. And we can have Carly get to it. And then let's see, Sarah would like to know, Carly, if you can share the brag sheet you use with your students, um, just in terms of looking to adjust, potentially how we're asking students questions. I know I read that question and I thought, even in our student survey that we use at MBA with our students, kind of some adjustments that we could maybe make to the questions that we're asking. And then if any other counselors have other AI platforms that they are finding the most useful, that's kind of an open-ended question to everyone in the chat. We would love to hear your input.
Awesome. Okay, so I wish I could share the brag sheet I used. This one, I kind of reverse brag sheeted it. So I already had this fake students application and I put it into chat and I said, please turn this into a brag sheet. So you are welcome to like use this exact model for it. We use a questionnaire that we say like, oh, it'll take you 20 minutes. It takes them probably closer to 30. And we ask a bunch of questions on it that helps us with our rec letters, like giving us like, tell us a time when you, I don't know, tell us about a project you were really proud of. Tell us about a difficult conversation you had that made you change your way of thinking. So ours is more of a questionnaire format, but let's say this is my brag sheet format, you are welcome to use it. And I did sort of reverse engineer it. Let me see. There is one other use case that I just thought of, and sorry, Hannah and Trish, it's not super related to what I just talked about, but I'm in the middle of my junior one-on-one meetings and about to start junior family meetings, and I'm sure a lot of us do those, and the email follow-ups take just as much time as the meeting. So for those, I created a GPT that's basically like a mail merge. And as I'm in this meeting with the student and the parent, I'm taking my notes in a spreadsheet. And then I have a GPT where I can just upload what I've written in the spreadsheet and it fills out the email template for me and it saves me so much time. So there are a lot of use cases like that where it's just a good time saver. And then in terms of other AI platforms counselors are finding useful, I'm curious about that too. Addie is interesting um, in terms of like an AI that is specifically college counseling. There's always like a great debate about chat versus perplexity. I like both. I really like perplexity. Its strength is that it always includes sources. With chat, sometimes you have to prompt it to include sources, but chat perplexity will always include its sources. Mail merge. Yeah, April, if you wanted to email me, I'll put my email in the chat. I can help you with that mail merge. And then I'll show you just kind of one more fun use case as people might think of other questions. I have a GPT that I use for a newsletter, and so it runs every Monday and it pulls relevant college counseling news. So basically, its instructions are to find three top news stories in the field of college counseling, and I've given it some taglines to look for. It needs to summarize each story in 100 words, include the source link, and tailor the summary for a college counselor audience. And I've given it restrictions on where it can pull from, so it can't just make things up. So if I say run, it's going to pull three stories for me that I could easily drop into a newsletter. So obviously I would fact check these, but I make it include its link so that I can go in and fact check. And so this is a really like one really easy use case of AI that's helped me. Like yesterday I was writing a newsletter for our juniors. I hadn't had time to like comb through the Chronicle of Higher Ed myself. So I used this. I found three articles, fact checked the links, they were legitimate, and I put that into the newsletter. So just an example of a time save.
Hey,
Okay, I think that's t oh, Eric, yeah.
I'm just gonna say this. I missed part of the presentation, so I'm walking into my building. But I'm just saying, Carly, you're about to get bombarded with emails. Because I'm sitting here going, wait a second, you could do that with a newsletter. You
Yes.
can
Okay.
just, with chat, GPT to just tell it to go run this, and it's already saved. Just hit run, and it scans it, full pulls it. You're about to be inundated with all
I
kinds of questions. You're going to be so inundated. You're probably going to leave your school and just become an AI um, uh, prompter, and that's it.
thank
Because
you, Eric. I
this
appreciate
this
it.
was great information.
Thank you so
So
much. It means a lot. And
Carly, in order to like say potentially save you from that bombardment of questions and stuff, where would you say like you started your your process or just even your exploration with AI? So like if you had some other like some initial stops where you were like, man, I really want to work smarter, not harder, but like how do I really use it? Like where would you direct some of your best resources to developing your strategies? Like where did you start out?
such a good question. Okay, I'm about to like massively overshare, but I was out on medical leave like the first year generative AI was really firing up. I was going through chemo, and so I'm okay now. I'm all good. I had a lot of time on my hands and my brain wasn't working super well from the chemo fog. So I was like, I really need some systems to help me like remember things, help me clear through the fog, help me write these emails more efficiently. And so I really just started to teach myself on AI as a way to help me and because I was kind of bored because I wasn't working during chemo. So I just started to teach myself a bit, but I really like Eric Hudson. I'll put his name in the chat. He has a great Substack about AI and ethics and education. Also, The Neuron is a weekly newsletter that's great about AI. And I'm putting these all in the chat. Oh, what's his name? It's technology. It's Jeff Neal, who works at Graded in Brazil. He has a great newsletter every week. I think it's called Technology, and he's a fellow college counselor. So no, in short, I didn't take a class. I think I would really like to. Um, but if you all email, like I'll see what questions are over email, and maybe I could do like a training that I could record and send to folks. I'd be happy to do it probably over President's Day weekend. So my response to you might be delayed, but I promise I will email you back and it won't be AI generated.
With
Okay,
that
I think,
being, yeah, we have a little buffer of time before the next session. We have about a
okay.
15-minute break. So if anybody wants to continue in the chat and drop things, please put them in there. We can collect those questions and absolutely make sure that they get addressed for sure. But also I think like the thing about AI is it's so cool, right? Like it is this amazing resource. Yes, it's a little scary, but it's exciting at the same time. So I implore you as counselors, it's something that I'm doing my on my end on the college admission side as well. Just going into a chat GPT is usually the one that I lead with. It's the one that I feel most comfortable with. And I've had some great results with it. But I implore you, explore. There's no limit to how many prompts you can put into AI. So play around with them, create your prompt, see what it spits out, and then always feel like you can, reiterate and take some examples, tweak them to best work what best works for your students. So I think that's the really exciting piece about it for sure. But also about classes as well, implore you to audit a class. I think the really cool thing on the college and the higher ed side as well is that you're right, AI, Carly, like AI is not going away. It is going to get stronger and stronger. And to in your local areas, your local community colleges, check out what those AI courses that might be offered and audit them. See if you can at least just sit in on maybe some lectures or do a virtual class. I think there's going to be more and more resources out there, webinars, LinkedIn professional like classes that you can take or sessions. I'm certain there will probably be some SACAC sessions at the annual conference regarding AI. So yeah, there's going to be some awesome resources out there. You just got to kind of dig and search for them.
Yeah, I second all of that. I'm doing a webinar at SACAC. I can't remember what it's called, but it's about AI. And it's with someone from Rev Prep. So maybe I'll be talking about some of the same stuff. And one last thing, and then I need to jump off for a student meeting. Um, Chat knows itself best. And so if you're ever wondering, like, how could I don't know, if you're ever wondering how you could optimize your workflow in some way, like how to prompt Chat GPT for that, like chat is the best place to ask. Like, how can I easily automate? I already do this, but hopefully it doesn't think that I do. How can I easily automate follow-up emails to counselors after a webinar? What prompt should I give you and what info would you need? It's so good at flattery. So it's giving me ideas on how I could do this. So chat is it's like I don't know, it's like I'm trying to come up with a clever analogy. I'm not doing a good job at it, but like I don't want to say use chat against itself, but if you're going to be using chat or perplexity, those systems know themselves best. So if you really want to power up with chat, like ask chat how you can do it because it knows what it will need from you. So it's asking me, it's like giving me exactly what it would want to create a follow-up email from a webinar like this. And this might look like gibberish right now. That's totally okay. Like it's a learning process and you got to take it a bit at a time. And you can also say things like, whoa, slow down. That's too complicated. Explain it like I'm 12. It's a thought partner, responds well to feedback. So yeah, I think like just get in the playground, just start trying and playing around and just maintaining those boundaries of not feeding it identifying information about a student. I think that's I think that's what I've got.
Awesome, Carly. Thank you so, so much. And we will let you get to your student meeting, but this was far and away super valuable information. I know I am thinking about all sorts of different prompts and things that I can do with my students. And I'm sure others are as well. So, again, Carly put her email in the chat. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to her. Again, we will also be sharing the notes and presentations from today as well after the drive-in workshops. So just know we will be sending this information out. You will have access to it. But right now we've got a few minutes before our next presentation, so which will be starting at about 9:45. So we'll let them go ahead and get set up. And if you need to run, grab a cup of coffee, use the restroom, now is a great time to do that. So we will see you back here at 9:45. And thank you, Carly. We'll let you get to your student meeting.
Morning, Samantha. How are you today?
Good morning. All is well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Do you have slides that you want to get set up and we're ready to go, or no slides?
Yeah, I can do that. I have
Okay.
slides.
Yeah, just so we can get it up and running for you and make sure that you can get access and be able to navigate through.
I'm like, oh, when was the last time I used Zoom? So let me make sure I do it right.
Same, same.
Okay, let me pause sharing real quick. And I was such a Zoom girly. I loved Zoom. And then it was all Teams. So I've become accustomed to using Teams now.
I remember it was like I want to say it was like this time last year, Zoom did a big update too, and they like added so many more features in like the menu bar below. And I was like, I don't know what I'm looking at anymore. So then I didn't know where anything was. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's me right now. Does it look good?
It's pulling up your full slide, but it's not like in presenting mode because it's in like a web browser. So it's not like the actual PowerPoint.
That's strange because I thought I didn't use the web browser version. Okay, let's pause. Let's try it again. Okay.
And then just, can you go in presenter mode just one time? Just want to make sure that you can progress through your slides too.
Yep.
Amazing. Okay, awesome.
Samantha, it's officially 9:45. So if you want to take it away, we can go ahead and get started with session two.
Alrighty. Good morning, everyone. Happy National School Counselor Week. I hope everyone's feeling celebrated, not overwhelmed. Obviously, a very tough follow-up, but I'm here with ACT. My name is Samantha Southall, here to share some free tools and resources for educators and counselors. Hopefully, these are going to be some things that are probably not brand new to you, but I'll be able to identify how they can be utilized, and maybe some will be new. I am a part of ACT's counselor outreach team. Our team was inaugurated in January 2024, so we just turned 2 years old. ACT as an organization saw a need for a team that existed solely to support school counselors. So that's what we exist for. We divide the country by region. I am working with the Southeast region, which is why I'm here with you. However, Ashley and I kind of tag team the Southeast. She actually lives in Tennessee, whereas I live in Washington, D.C. So we find our ways to support as best we can in that way. In addition to supporting Tennessee, I also support Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, North Carolina, and South Carolina. Ultimately, our goal is to help people achieve education and workplace success here at ACT. So we do applaud students for defining and achieving success in their own way. One thing that our team especially likes to do is support students in building choice-filled lives, and we do that work through supporting counselors specifically. We're lining the path with strategies and innovative ideas and solutions to support students in those different pathways along their journeys. Even though this is not a part of the original presentation, I always like to go ahead and share some of these enhancements, what is changing, what's not changing, as I know it's something that kind of makes a lot of us nervous as things have a big impact on our juniors and seniors right now. I do want to name that for juniors, they will see some things that are a little bit different. In fall, they took the legacy test, but it also received a new score. Moving forward, everything will be the same. So they're going to take the new test and get their new score. But it's important to know what the things are that are changing. We do have a reduced number of questions. It's a shorter test, about 75 fewer minutes and 44 fewer questions. So the core content and subject areas are remaining the same, but it does allow for students to spend less time in the test center and getting more time back in their day, while also getting more time per question while they're taking it. So the same skills and knowledge are being assessed. That part is not changing at all, but we're allowing students to kind of slow down and actually show what they know, think clearly, and do their best when taking the test. They're actually being assessed on what they know as opposed to how fast they can take the test. Something that a lot of us were really excited about is that math is going to resemble the other areas of our test, with 4 answer choices being reduced from the previous 5 answer choices. It will keep things consistent across the test and allow some support with decision fatigue as well. We have shorter reading passages. The reading section will still measure comprehension and analysis, but it'll also continue to help with that mental fatigue while keeping the same standards. Our science test is optional, as our writing test is optional as well. Colleges will receive a comprehensive ACT score, and students can choose what to take based on their own goals and strengths. So just giving them a little bit more autonomy in this process. We still offer both the paper and online tests so that students can choose whatever feels best for them. And then super scoring is also still supported. The ACT score is going to still remain a 1 through 36, and the benchmarks remain unchanged. So I just wanted to share those things. Of course, if you have questions, do feel free to type them in the chat. I'll come back to them if we have time at the end. If not, I'll be sure to provide my email address so that I can connect with anyone who has questions. But what I actually am here for is to share those key free tools and resources. We get a lot of questions about things to be utilized to support students. So we took this opportunity to create a space where we would be able to share collective resources with those who utilize them the most, our school counselors. So one thing that we are extremely proud of is our counselor blog, which actually just turned 1 year old. One of my colleagues, Jasmine, had an idea to utilize a space where we could share information consistently, things that were both ACT related and not ACT related, just things that would support counselors ultimately. And this is something that has been flourishing since its inception in January of last year. So we are extremely proud. We have a lot of subscribers. We've reached over 10,000 views of our things. So it makes us really proud to know that we are actively supporting counselors in this way. So it's basically our central hub for timely articles and resources. We provide updates on what's new with ACT, initiatives, and tools. We also offer practical how-to content that can be applied right away. And we have opportunities for counselors to contribute their own stories. So if you ever feel like you have something that you like to share, something that would benefit other counselors across the country, we welcome your voices there as well. If you're interested, we welcome you to go ahead and utilize the QR code to subscribe. And otherwise, the website is just counselblog.act.org. I'm actually not going to show these videos, but this was something that we were excited about. If you watch basketball at all, you may have seen that like there were a few instances of some NBA players talking about their ACT scores. It happened twice actually, and we utilized that as an opportunity to reach out to one of them, but also to share on our blog. Just some interesting ways to engage students in conversations about the ACT and how it can impact them in their futures. This is our recent 2026 My Journey poster, which can be downloaded from our blog. My Journey is essentially a set of events that are hosted in support of counselors, students, and families. This is our list for the year, all the way through November. But this is another example of something that you might find on our counselor blog as well. Okay, so let's talk about fee waivers. Fee waivers are probably one of the most important equity tools that ACT offers. And yes, even us as a team we were a little disappointed when we learned that the number will be reduced from 4 to 2, but the goal of that is to ensure that when students are utilizing these fee waivers, they're doing so at the most impactful times for themselves, that they're actually prepared and that they're actually going to show up and take the test. Something that we found was that oftentimes students would register using fee waivers, but not actually show up to test. So there are some ways that we as an organization have found to utilize those funds to continue to support students and families. But as counselors, you are the gatekeepers of fee waivers. Unfortunately, students are not able to access them on their own. So you do have a critical role in identifying qualifying students and guiding them through the process, preferably early. That is best practice. Introduce them so that students know that they're there for them and available to utilize to support them as they seek to access college and career opportunities. Ideally, I would suggest introducing it late freshman year, maybe sophomore year. That way students know what's ahead before it comes. Also, fee waivers don't just cover the registration fee. They also cover the late registration fee, which is different than previously. They cover free score reports, access to prep resources like Kaplan's online self-paced course, the ACT My Answer Key, which was formerly the test information release, which I'll also discuss a little bit later. There's also a blog post on how to access fee waivers if anyone's unaware of how to do so. This QR code will take you directly to that link. My Answer Key is the new name for what was formerly known as the test information release. It's probably one of my favorite tools because it allows for really tailored studying for students. It will show students their exact right and wrong answers, what they chose, what was the correct answer. It's not available on every test, but this year it is available on the April 2026 test and the June 2026 test. We haven't yet received them for the following school year. It was also available in October. But students who utilize fee waivers do get the My Answer Key for free. So this is a great opportunity to help support them in really maximizing their test time. I am one who advocates for possibly taking your first test using an answer key. So aligning your registration with a date that allows you to get that answer key back. And then you have the opportunity to really utilize it as a tailored tool for studying. Sometimes I talk so fast. And it just truly can support students in making gains and scoring in the way that they hope to score. I have some personal examples of students who did utilize this as a tool and did see some gains using it along with other study tools as well. We also have the counselor toolkit, which was truly built with counselors in mind. The counselor toolkit is designed to make your job easier. We know that counselors juggle a lot, so we put everything that you need from us in one place, and it was just recently updated this past September. There's an emphasis on comprehensive support and practicality. The counselor toolkit is really a one-stop shop for ACT's resources. Because it was built for counselors and with counselors in mind, we're actively seeking your feedback to make it even better. So if you do utilize it, if you haven't, if you're going to, introduce yourself to it soon, please, please, please do share your feedback. Everything that we do as a team, we do with counselors in mind. I was not a school counselor, but two of my teammates were, so they have a really unique perspective that they bring to us as a team to ensure that, things that they knew that they would have wanted or needed are available to counselors on a consistent basis. And there are some ways that you can utilize this counselor toolkit in your daily work just kind of naturally. Some of those ways include, I'm sorry, I'm like using two screens at the same time, but you can use it to support student meetings. You can utilize the counselor toolkit with parent and family engagement opportunities, professional learning and development for staff who may not be completely familiar with everything, with supporting stakeholders school-wide, and then also with college and career readiness events. Because all of them are in one place, we hope that it does kind of cut down on time with planning. And actually supports these events and opportunities within your school. This is just an example of some videos that you'll see on our toolkit, things that might be utilized. We also have a district communication toolkit. One of the biggest pieces of feedback that we get is about time in schools in general. So when it comes to communicating, testing information, we want to make sure that it is kind of clear and easily accessible. So inside of here, there are some pre-written emails, some flyers that can be utilized, and posters. They can be used as they already are or customized to support your specific school if that's what you choose to do. But again, they are readily available and able to be used as they are so that you don't have to do anything additional if you don't want to. There are also engagement resources like social media graphics. We know that students and families are getting their information in a variety of ways these days, so we want to offer in a variety of ways for them. Then there's also prep tools, and finally a campaign timeline that tells you exactly when to send out different communication for students and families. All right. I could ask this question, but I think I already know the answer. Has anyone ever been asked by a student, how do I study for the ACT? Hard yes for me, even when I was teaching younger students, right? Like, well, I don't know how to study for these things. And so we offer a variety of free test prep that supports students in preparing for the ACT. That includes free full-length ACT practice tests, which are available both online and in print. This way, students are able to practice in a way that they intend to test. They can also kind of gauge what feels more comfortable for them. We also have ACT Quiz Me. It's not an app, but it's an online tool that gives daily questions and instant feedback for students. We have the Preparing for the ACT Testing Guide, and then the previously mentioned online prep through Kaplan, which is free for those students who utilize fee waivers. I do see some questions, but I'm going to wait until the end. Sometimes students don't want to sit for a full test prep session. They just want something quick, something easy. So that's where the Quiz Me online tool comes in. It is an opportunity for students to engage in what's like a gamified study tool. There are practice quizzes in math, English, reading, and in science. And so it doesn't necessarily feel like studying in the same way that it does when you open a book or do practice questions online. It's updated, so it does reflect the enhanced version of the ACT. And it does offer an answer key at the end so students can see their progress in real time. In addition to test prep for the ACT, we also offer free test prep resources for the pre-ACT if your students utilize it. So there's the Preparing for the Pre-ACT Secure Guide, which is very similar to the Preparing for the ACT Guide. There's the online practice tests. There are online testing score keys, as well as additional booklets. Something that I really enjoy is ACT Recruit Me. That's the new name for Educational Opportunity Services, which it was previously called, but it is still a free and completely voluntary program that helps connect students to colleges, to scholarships, as well as career opportunities. Essentially, ACT Recruit Me utilizes the information that students are already choosing to share to my ACT, and it helps them to connect with schools and programs that fit their interests and background. It helps them to expand opportunities that they might otherwise not have been aware of or might not have connected with it. And with the ACT Recruit Me, students do have to sign up for themselves. So unfortunately, you wouldn't be able to just sign up a full class of students and say, like, I think this would be good for them all. They would have to opt in on their own when registering or in their My ACT online account. Scholarship navigation partner, essentially ACT partners with a scholarship partner to support students and families in finding resources to help they pay for college. We are fully aware that one of the largest barriers to post-secondary access is the cost. So we try to do our part in supporting matching students with scholarships so that they're able to pay for that. We also have the counselor newsletter, which comes out once a month through email. And it's honestly one of the easiest ways to stay connected with updates without having to go looking for them for yourself. The newsletter includes resources, webinars that are upcoming, as well as tools that can be utilized for students and shared with students as well. The goal is to make sure that counselors don't feel overwhelmed, but also don't miss opportunities that could support their students. And it's easy to sign up, obviously. You can do so online or you can utilize the QR code here. We are extremely thoughtful and recently actually became like the owners of the newsletter. So very thoughtful about like what's placed where, when we share, making sure that things are timely and relevant for counselors. And as always, we do cherish your feedback as counselors, as those who are utilizing what we're putting out. So we don't ever want to assume what you need. We love to hear back from you so that we can provide things that are, they feel mindful, they feel usable. This is the Educator's Guide to College and Career Readiness. What makes it really valuable is that it helps schools to think about readiness as a journey long-term and not just something that starts in junior or senior year. It provides a month-to-month roadmap for early grades through graduation. This guide also includes practical tools that schools can use right away. Our goal is often to provide something that you don't have to do a lot with, but you can just place into action. So some real examples from other schools doing the work well, strategies that help to anticipate barriers before they arise as well. This is also a free ebook, so it's easy to access and to also like put into things that are already planned, like a plug and play. The next resource is a conversation guide for K-12 educators on the value of an ACT score. Oftentimes, especially in the day of test optional, a lot of students have questions like, well, why do I need to do this? Why do I need a score? What's it going to do for me? And so this conversation guide really helps frame the ACT beyond just college admissions. It includes things like career planning, scholarship access, and opportunities in the military and workforce pathways. This guide helps counselors and educators to navigate conversations around test optional schools and how scores can still strengthen application. As you all know, schools are changing every single day, test optional, test required, recommended, right? So just having something to support the conversation with students. Obviously, there are many things that you already know, and you know your students very well, but this guide does support those conversations as well. Again, with our goal being really just to support more confident and more informed conversations with students and families about long-term opportunity through ACT. Here we have some of our own upcoming events, some which may have, no, these are some of our own. So if you're interested in signing up for any of them, I think I'm leaving a couple minutes for questions. There's that. And then I'll also share how to stay connected with us as a team. If you email counselor@act.org, it'll go to our entire team. However, as you are folks in Tennessee, you can also email me directly. And that's if, of course, you're not utilizing things like the counselor blog, or if we're not, something that you're missing, something is missing from those platforms. I'll type my direct email address in the chat as well. And after today, I hope that there are a few things that you are able to try. Maybe share a free ACT tool with students and families, maybe explore our counselor toolkit, or email us with a question or an idea. Again, we do offer opportunities for guests to write for our blog. So if you have anything that you're willing to share or would like to share, something that maybe your school is doing well, something you've recently learned, we welcome you to join us. Jasmine and I often do this together for an hour. So she's Jasmine and I'm me. Thank you again so much for having me. We've got some time for some questions. So let's see.
So, Samantha, the one question that came up during the presentation was you had mentioned that the fee waivers are in fact going from 4 to 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's a total of 2 for students. They were allowed to utilize 4 in their time. Typically, it would be junior to senior year. So oftentimes, a lot of students would do 2 in their junior and 2 in their senior year. Now there's going to be a total of 2 fee waivers utilized instead of 4.
If a student is truly in need of additional waivers beyond the 2, is there a way for counselors to request that and provide further documentation or information to be able to allow the student to receive more than 2?
The students won't receive more than 2 fee waivers, not in this sense. However, if a counselor does reach out to ACT, there are ways that we often try to support counselors with how to be able to support a student who is in need and wants to test.
Amazing. Thank you.
Of course. Yes, just 2 tests. So essentially, the fee waiver is going to cover 2 test registrations. Students will still have access to all of the additional things that fee waivers cover for the entire duration. Like once they've registered for a single test, they'll be able to access all of the other things. So for example, the My Answer Key, the Kaplan test prep, they'll have for at least 1 year per fee waiver. But the registration fee will only be covered for 2 total tests. Oh, thank you.
And then, Samantha, if someone was in that scenario where they needed to contact for additional fee waivers, you said just reach out to you or Jasmine. Okay.
Me.
And then do you happen to have, to you. Amazing. Perfect. So just reach out to Samantha. And then you said Jasmine was, excuse me, you said Jasmine works, oh my goodness. You had mentioned that Jasmine works specifically with our Tennessee state.
I work
Correct?
with Tennessee.
Oh, you work with Tennessee.
Ashley lives in Tennessee. So
Ashley lives in
sometimes
Tennessee.
we do
You work
things.
with Tennessee.
Yeah, sometimes we do things in Tennessee. We both do them. But I am your first go-to. Yep.
Amazing.
And Trish did drop my email in the chat, so if anyone needs it, that is correct.
Well, amazing. If there are not any additional questions for Samantha, we will let her go for the day. Thank you so much, Samantha, for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it. And this is, as always, amazing information to always share with our school counselors, as ACT is the leader in our state for sure. And then I am always happy to give a few extra moments back to our counselors to manage any things that have come up in their inbox this morning. So please feel free to go and make an extra cup of coffee, restroom break, email check, that kind of thing. And then we will reconvene. Let me pull up my schedule. We will reconvene for Eric's presentation at, I believe it was 10:30. So we will give you the next 20 minutes to go and do some catch up for this morning. So a nice little intermission, which is perfect. This is about the halfway point. So awesome. Yay. Eric, always great to see you. Can't wait for your presentation. If you want to get the screen share going up and just get everything prepped, by all means, feel free, and
Okay.
we'll just I'm going to turn my screen off, make another cup of coffee. Nothing, but and then Eric, test if you can get through your progression of your slides too. And so if we need to troubleshoot anything, we can
Okay.
definitely do so.
Let me go. Let me go ahead and see if I can
Yeah.
share that. Mm,
It doesn't have to be like what career I'm doing, but. Not necessarily, but we used to have this. All right. No, all right, sounds good. You're welcome. Hey, how did Max go? I gotta get the waiver, I broke my back and I gotta.
See, can you see that okay?
So it's showing us the presenter mode,
Oh, that's lovely.
like with your notes and stuff. This is what I do every time, Eric. I never know how to toggle between the two.
Um, I think I know what I did.
I miss my old office sometimes because I had all the multiple screens. So I was like, oh, I know this screen is to present and this is for my notes. There you go. You're
Oh, yeah.
good.
Okay. I know what
Amazing. So
I selected the wrong
mode.
the wrong screen. I am going to
Yes,
refresh
I'm gonna
it.
hop off as well and take a break for a second, and we will reconvene in about 15 minutes or so.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, everyone, welcome back. Hope you had a good little short break. I'm going to turn it over to Eric. Jason, I'm seeing a raised hand from you, Jason Harrison. If you want to send either myself or Trish a chat, we can make sure if you have a question that gets answered. So please message one of us and we will get to you shortly. Okay, and Eric, whenever you are ready, you can take it away.
All right. I'll be ready in about 2 hours. That's plan. So just first, if you see me looking this way, I'm looking at the second screen to make sure everything is still good on the Zoom part. But ladies and gentlemen, my name is Eric Farmer. I'm with the Tennessee Higher Education Commission. I know you're used to us saying TSAC or the Tennessee Student Assistance Corporation, but this past legislative season, this past summer, as a matter of fact, our name officially changed to the Tennessee Education Commission. We have been in the process of merging the two agencies together ever since I've started. I mean, and it finally became official this summer. So uh, TSAC is still around, but the official organization is the Tennessee Education Commission. So today we'll be talking about the FAFSA, some of the um, dependency statuses, things like that. Just going to kind of give you some updates on the FAFSA. Yes, you see that there where it says best FAFSA ever with a question mark. Um, we used this a couple of years ago when it first the new FAFSA rolled out, and we really had questions. But now, after this year, the 26-27 FAFSA has been really, really smooth. Um, We've had very little issues. I'm not gonna say no issues, but very little. And it's working better than it ever has. I've been with TSAC, TSAC for, excuse me, since 2009. And I've been doing FAFSAs ever since. And this is probably the easiest and smoothest FAFSA season we have ever had. So I am very excited to kind of break down the process of how the FAFSA runs. You have the student and parent or contributor. The student will go in and start their FAFSA, completes their sections, enter the parent's email and to send a code, and the student will sign and submit their part. The parent will get the email, start their FAFSA, enter the codes, complete their section, sign and submit, and then the FAFSA is complete. Real quick, real easy. A lot of times the financial parts are pulled in automatically. If they're not, you still can key them in. It's been real simple. Even with the FSA ID, creating the account, it's been very simple. Um, it gets verified as the student or parent completes it now. They did an update over the break, whereas you enter information like your telephone number, it'll ask you to verify it right then. Your email address gets verified immediately. They've taken out the challenge questions. And so as soon as the student is or parent is done creating their account, it logs them in and you actually can start the FAFSA at that point. Last year, the previous years with the contributor information, they would have to put in their date of birth, the parent's date of birth, the social, email addresses, things like that. This year, all they have to do is put their email in and send the invite. And once the email is sent, um, it can tell you that the invite has been accepted or you have to replace the contributor. At the very end of the submission, you can see an invite code on the pending submission page once the student submits their FAFSA. And so it has that information there, and they can start their part right there. Or can use that code if they need to go in and enter it themselves, or if they don't have an email address, or they didn't get the email. Kind of showing that process there. So the parent will get their code, but let's say they didn't get the email. They can go to studentaid.gov, click Start New Form. Where it asks about the student or parent, they can actually click Enter Code, and they'll type that code right there. And then they can start the FAFSA. It will actually show that, hey, you're about to share information with this student. Is this okay? You confirm it, and boom, you're done. Um, when you do have parents' information needed as a dependent, it will require the student and at least one parent to have an account. If the parents file married jointly, you definitely need to have at least one parent with an account. If they filed married separately, both parents will need an account. If they are the biological parents are not married but live together, both parents will need an account. If they're separated, only one parent will need an account, and so forth. Now, once the FAFSA is completed and submitted, you actually go to the FAST, click reports to see if you want to track. You can do high school and then click the Tennessee Promise Report. You want to click the 26-27 school year. You want to view report. And what we typically do is click the little disc there, and it gives you a drop down of how you want to view the report. I like viewing the report as a CVS file so I can manipulate a little bit better. If you do it as an Excel spreadsheet, you have the information at the top where it says State of Tennessee, Tennessee Student Assistance Corporation, blah, blah, blah. And that's in the way you got to delete that and do that. If you do the CVS or CSV, it's going to show without that. It's easier to manipulate. Some deadlines to keep in mind for the 2026, for fall 2026. The TSAA and Promise deadlines for April 1st are for the FAFSA. Of course, September 1 is the Hope Scholarship and Reconnect for the FAFSA. And for Wilder NAFI, the FAFSA needs to be submitted by November 1st. Now, when you are thinking about citizenship and who can complete the FAFSA, of course, you have U.S. citizens that can complete the FAFSA, but you also have eligible non-citizens. So you have the list there. U.S. permanent residents, individuals with an I-94 showing refugee, asylee, Cuban, Haitian entrant, or parolee, victims of human trafficking, which is the T visa, and battered immigrants and children. No other visa is considered an eligible non-citizen. The only visa is T. There's all kinds of visas out there, but the T visa is the main one, is the only one that could for a student to complete the FAFSA. And their student will need some type of card similar to what you see on the screen in any of these cases, and they'll need that aid number, where that aid number is called the US CIS number. And so you'll need that number to enter on the FAFSA as well. Now you might have questions where, hey, what if it's a visa of holding for holders of non-immigrant, like student workers, things like that, individual with temporary protected status or deferred action, child arrivals. Those are not eligible. Those are not eligible citizens to complete the FAFSA. We are seeing a lot more TPS students coming through, but unfortunately, as of today, they're not eligible to complete the FAFSA. Now, we do have some resources that you can use for students um, that are classified as not eligible for the FAFSA. If you use the QR code that you see on the screen there, that's the Educational Trust. They have resources to help students, not just students who hit that ineligible status for the FAFSA, but also students who might be considered uh, eligible non-citizens as well. Now, you might be wondering, hey, well, I've had parents in weird situations or students in weird situations where the parents either live together or don't live together or have 50 for 50 custody, things like that. you definitely want to use something called the FAFSA wizard. Now, anytime I say FAFSA wizard, I think of someone in a robe with a hat, like Merlin, and sitting there saying, "Okay, both parents need to complete the FAFSA. One student needs, or one parent needs to complete the FAFSA," things like that. But if you Google FAFSA parent wizard, um, it's going to come up with this page, and you can actually enter this student situation, ask questions like, "What's your parents' names?" You actually can use whatever name. Just know that who's who. Um, and then it will ask, are they married? Do they live together? Uh, do they, I think, do they share custody or something like that? And it kind of goes through steps to kind of determine if a, which parent, if both, if one needs to complete the FAFSA. Um, so that's actually a great tool, especially if there's a question about which parent should do it or not. Now, when you think of parents, parents are biological or adoptive parents, and then if the biological or adoptive parent is married to someone else other than the, let's say in the biological situation, then their initial biological parent, that step parent will need to put the information in. These individuals that you'll see here are not considered parents. Grandparents, uncles, aunts, brothers, sisters, legal guardians, relatives who claim the student on their taxes, those are not considered parents. So those students definitely, or those people definitely do not need to put their information on their FAFSA, on the student's FAFSA, unless they've adopted them. I have come across cases where the um, grandparent has adopted the child, and at that point, the grandparent is now the parent, and their information would be on the FAFSA. Um, And so just kind of keep that in mind. If you have any student in any of these situations where they live with any of these individuals, you might have a situation where you have a special circumstance or unusual circumstance where they initially don't put a parent information in there at all, and the college will actually start asking questions to see what the situation is. Um, you will come across individuals who are under legal custody. And there is a difference between legal custody and legal guardianship. In a nutshell, the basis is guardianship is more permanent, custody can be temporary. And so they're looking for legal guardian instead of legal custody. Colleges, though, will have an option to determine which they'll accept and which not. If it's legal guardian, all colleges have to accept it. But it's the custody that goes by college or from college to college to determine if they'll accept as an independent student or not. So let's say you have a grandparent who does not have official documentation or the documentation says legal custody. That student will mark that they are under a unusual circumstance and cannot provide parental information, especially if the parents are not around. And then we'll move on from that point. They will not enter parent information. But let's say the student lives with a grandparent and the student talks to mom consistently or has communication with mom, or it might be easy to talk to mom. You probably want to go ahead and use mom's information because the college will actually more than likely tell them to do that as well. So go ahead and have that get the student to do that, um, or use judgment based upon the situation. There might be a reason why they're staying with a grandparent. Yes, they might talk with them, but they might not be in the best situation or things like that. So you can use your judgment on that, and then let the college determine if they really do need that information or not. Um, The reason why it says contact Jason C. right there is because this was his presentation and he forgot to put him back in there. But that's okay. You can contact me. uh, that's all of our concentrations across the state. We have Felicia in Shelby County. Lori's got the rest of West Tennessee. Jonathan has the west portion of Middle Tennessee. Of course, Jason has Davidson County. Um, and uh, you have me and five. Oh, never mind. I know why it says contact Jason, because we right now do not have someone in Area 6. And he's covering Area 6 right now. So because me and five, you have Rita and seven and Erica in Region 8. And so if you are any of these areas, definitely contact the outreach specialist in your territory, or definitely contact me. I don't mind whatsoever answering any questions you might have about FAFSA, state aid, things like that. I know that was pretty quick, just like the FAFSA, because there's not really much updates or anything uh, ready, that's questionable. It's like this has been the easiest year for the FAFSA. Really, it truly has been. And I guess I'm going to open the floor to questions because Trish, that's it.
That's a record.
So hold up. You also got to understand this. I'm not Jason. Jason will, you know, I know this is recorded, so I'm going to keep up. We love Jason.
We love Jason.
And Jason would have taken the full hour. I just want to get to the nitty gritty, give you, get you down there, get you see what we got here, and because and there might be situations, specific situations y'all might have, and that actually gives us more time to talk about that as well. So if you have a specific situation that you want to kind of discuss, that is fine. If I did talk about fast and how to find certain information, or if you have a certain situation and you can't find a student in your system, or a specific dependency question situation, feel free to ask. I got the chat up so I can see it as well. Um, and if I can think of anything that you want that might help you in certain situations, I'll go ahead and mention that too. Uh, when will meeting attendance? Oh, okay. Um, so it's to be honest, I'll have to check for you because the partner organizations will give that information to us, and then we upload it in FAST. Once all the meetings are done, typically a week or two after that, it's when we get that information and can put it in FAST. Um, so I'm assuming most of the meetings are pretty much done now. I think they had some meetings in January as well, and so it should be soon. It should be soon before when the uh, attendance should be entered in at that point. But I don't have an exact date.
I'll just take a second to share something that I'm seeing on the college side, especially as we're now getting ready to work with juniors. Just a reminder that when you're working with your students and they're beginning to fill out applications, stress the importance of putting correct social security numbers if they are going to add it to their applications. I feel like this year was the most corrections for social security numbers that I've ever had. And I've been doing this like 14 years. And this was the year where I had the most typos. So I strongly encourage it because I think it just makes the financial aid process with each institution go much smoothly if it's already added on the application. But I mean, again, it's not required for the students to have to add that in there. But when it does come to this financial aid packaging time of year, if it's not included, then we have to follow up with students to then get it added in order to get a financial aid package process. So just something to keep in mind with your students to make sure that they know their social security number, they know it accurately so that they can add it to their applications and have a seamless financial aid process once they begin receiving their decisions, for sure.
Thank you, Ann. I didn't realize I saw that chat there with Holly mentioned that it'll be after the deadline in March. So yeah, that's great. Going back to Trish, yes, you definitely want to put your correct social in because if you when you apply for Tennessee Promise, um, you- we don't do a Social Security check, and so even to this year, we've seen more Social Security corrections. It's so much so that we as outreach specialists now have the ability to update socials in there because at first we didn't, and so that it boosted so high that they're like, oh, we need help. So, and so yeah, we now have the ability to do that. So if you have a student who might not be showing up on your report, on your Tennessee Promise report, as completed the FAFSA, and you know they completed the FAFSA, let us know because it could be the Social Security number that's not matching together. Something else about the FAFSA report. Those of you who have fast access, if you're trying to see students who have completed the FAFSA, the best report is the Tennessee Promise report. And the reason being is that the FAFSA by high school report requires the ACT to have a social, and the ACT does not require a social anymore. And therefore, um, those two trying to match up with the ACT and the FAFSA might not always match up. The Tennessee Promise requires a social, and so therefore you have a better chance of having those two match up, especially if the social is correct. And so just kind of keep that in mind. If you're trying to track your students on who completed their FAFSA or not, Promise report will be the better report. Uh, the district testing count for hope. We had issues last year with kids who tested district. Are you talking about the state testing for the district or solely district testing, like outside of the state? 'Cause I know that if it's considered a national test, it should still be used for the Hope Scholarship. Hmm, interesting. I've not heard of, so Jason has not mentioned anything yet, um, Amy, but I would actually, I will text Jason and see what he says. Okay. That's interesting. Well, I'll see what he says if we're still on, and if not, I'll get him to send you an email, Amy. Um, I'm trying to think of some other issues we might have seen that can help out with the FAFSA, something you might have come across, such as um, definitely the order of completing the FAFSA is important. Student, then parent. If you try to do it the other way around, there's definitely issues that way. We've had parents that tried and said the student's information wasn't found or they can't do it. So you want to make sure that you have the student do it first, and then the parent do it. Now, what I'm seeing, and probably what y'all have seen as well, that we have several students that has their part done, but the parent um, hasn't done their part yet, and that actually reflects in our uh, data that we have right now. Um, as of January 26th, you have the statewide FAFSA and some completion rates are 56.2% submitted, 55.3 completion. Now, let me define those two for you. Submission means it was submitted, but there might be some type of error, such as a missing signature, or they're in a situation where um, they need more. The college needs more information, so it's showing that there's some work that needs to be done to it. So you'll have that, but the 55.3 completion rate means there's nothing else that needs to be done, and so we do have a higher submission rate than we do completion rate. And so just keep that in mind that everything was submitted, but there's that little gap where we do have some that still might have things that need to be done. We can't tell half submission. In other words, we can't see the data for the student submitted theirs, and we're there just waiting for the parent. We no longer can see even a half done. I know back in the day we talked about the workaround, aka the dirty FAFSA, where the student would submit their FAFSA without the parent information just to be Tennessee Promise eligible. But that's not a possibility. Well, that's not an easy possibility right now. Um, but with the new FAFSA, it should be fairly simple to get both student and parent done before the deadline. I got I got someone who's on the call right now texting me too. I was going to call him out, but I decided not to.
Hey Trish, can I add something really quick to what Eric said?
Yes,
No.
please.
Hi, Eric. Um, I wanted to say that I have never in my career, and I have been doing this for a long time now, seen more students make mistakes in applications than I have this year. Our deadline for our scholarship is extended to this Friday, and the amount of emails I have gotten over this time period of I put my counselor's email address in wrong, I typed this person's name in wrong, I did this wrong. Students are rushing through applications and it is more obvious than ever. And luckily, I can edit a lot of that on my end, but sometimes you can't on certain applications. So I think it's really important to stress to students that you need to like sit down and do this on a computer and take your time in doing it because sometimes you just can't fix those errors on the other end. And so I've just been like absolutely blown away by how many have made errors in applications this year. It's really kind of scary.
Well, Eric, thank you so much. I'm not seeing any additional questions come through the chat, but you had provided your email in the presentation and we'll get the recording after this. So again, reminder to everyone, all of these recordings of the sessions will be posted and up on the Southern ACAC website for everyone to utilize and come back to. So if you do ever need any additional information, Eric, do you want to just drop your email in the
Yeah.
chat so anybody can copy and paste it really quick. But if you need to go back and reference the map, or if you want to email Eric for it, simply just reach out. But again, Eric, thank you so much for the updates and the information. It's so happy to hear that FAFSA is finally on a smoother note. I am thrilled. I agree. I definitely felt like it was a much smoother sail this year,
Yes.
and didn't hear a lot of griping from students and families, which is such a huge benefit.
I feel once people's jobs were on the line, they decided to do something right. I, I feel bad about it, but this was something that, it was like, oh, y'all really try to do this right this time. This is great, and actually they're updating it like over the break. There was an update that they didn't tell us about.
Hmm.
And when the creation that update with these the account where they took out the um, challenge questions and they made the verification of the telephone number and the email address immediate. Like you put it in, you hit continue, and then it's verifying. You put it in, hit continue, it's verifying. I mean, and it takes maybe 5, 10 minutes to fill out. It's not even that long to do the account. And I'm like, because that used to be the worst part of the FAFSA to me was trying to do the account. And, you know, they are actually really trying to update stuff to make sure um, it's great. It's like I said, it's a lot smoother. But if you want this presentation as well, you can email me. I can send it to you in a PDF format too, along with the recording, so you can take notes and things like that as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much again, Eric. We really appreciate it. We are thinking that we're gonna keep on rolling full steam ahead. Kelly is here and ready to present, so we are going to turn it over to her now. And so hopefully y'all will not be too disgruntled about getting more time back in the latter end of your day. So we're just gonna keep on trucking through and end a little bit earlier than the schedule originally stated, but again, if you're sticking to the schedule and you take a break and you were going to come back at 11:45 and we're ahead, just hop right in wherever you're at, but just know the full recording again will be on the SACAC website. And without further ado, Kelly, we'll turn it over to you. Take it away.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kelly Petcavish. I'm the Scholarship Senior Manager at the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee here in Nashville, and I have decided I will never have an application ending in February again because the ice and snow have been killing me for the past few years, having to extend deadlines. But for anybody on here who is having their students apply for our application or our program, we did extend the deadline to this Friday, the 6th, because so many people have been without power. So we want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to apply for that was planning to. So Tricia Hannah asked me today to talk about scholarship resources. And when I started my presentation, I was kind of putting stuff together and I kind of shifted a little bit. I hope they're okay with this. But I thought maybe even what is more important is to talk about how we discuss scholarships with students and shape the reality of scholarships for students. So, when I think of scholarships, I think of like a quilt that you're kind of patching all of these different funds together to help pay for your college experience. There is work that goes behind that, just like there is in a quilt. There's so much work that goes into making it perfect and making it all come together. And so students are spending so much time applying for scholarships. And what I try to talk to students about when I go to schools and do presentations is your time is just as important as any adult's time. You are busy, you're in activities, you're helping your family, you're working, you're doing all sorts of things. So you have to be smart about how you use your time in applying for scholarships. I always tell my students, think about the return on investment that you are going to get into applying for a scholarship. So, for example, applying for our application process sometimes makes more sense for students because our funds are specifically for Middle Tennessee students. Applying for a national raffle where you just put in your name and your email address is probably not worth your time because you're likely to not get one of those scholarships. So, I'm going to talk about a few tips later on how to make sure you're applying for scholarships that are worth your time. But I just kind of wanted to give some more thought behind this kind of patchwork quilt. So ideally, students would kind of have maybe four main squares to pull from when figuring out their financial aid for school, the school that they're wanting to go to. We all know on this call, 9.95 times out of 10, the most money you're going to get is from the institution itself. That's really important for students to understand. Then, of course, your federal and state aid that you may be getting. Tennessee is extremely generous, as Eric just covered, with different scholarships and grants that they offer for students. Typically maybe a family contribution if that's possible. That was not possible for me to go to college. My parents said, "Kid, you're on your own." So I knew I had to find scholarships. And then again, those outside scholarships. What I see happening a lot today is more like this. Students are pulling from so many different resources. And I understand that that is sometimes what students have to do. But what I try to remind students is you're going to have to do this every single year you're in college to ensure that that money rolls in every single year. This kind of setup right here with all of these different areas that you're getting money from doesn't allow you the full opportunity to be a full-time student. Because as soon as you get your bills paid, you're back in school, you're taking your classes, you're doing an internship, you're trying to be a kid in college and go to games and have fun. But instead, you are having to work the whole time on reapplying for scholarships or different aids, remembering deadlines, and that just takes away from your experience as a student. So, this is kind of how I like to view it and explain to students when I'm talking about scholarships and financial aid, because just as stressful as the college application process can be at times, if the financial aid process is super stressful the first year you do it, it's going to be that way every year after too. And that's a lot of stress for students to carry. So that's kind of how I like to phrase it and just explain it to students. I did want to kind of give some numbers behind this too, just so we understand. So, scholarships in combination with grants were the second largest source of financial aid. This is from 2022 and 23. They cover typically about 29% of a student's total cost. What I think is really important right here is the average scholarship amount per student is under $8,000. I think a lot of times students think they're going to get a large $20,000, $40,000, $50,000 scholarship. Are those programs out there? Absolutely. They are very limited, though, in how many they give out. So I think it's really important when we're talking to students about cost. Carly did a great job earlier on the AI presentation talking about what is important in your college process. If cost is really important, keep in mind the average amount of scholarships a student gets is about 8,000. So if you're only getting 10,000 from the school and 8,000 in scholarships, but the school costs $50,000, that's a lot of conversation to have with students. 61% of American families use scholarships to pay for college in 22 and 23. I also thought it's really important. There are a lot of stereotypes around people who use um, especially federal aid and scholarships. And so I thought it'd be really important to put this graphic up just to kind of show different racial groups who received gift aid by their race and ethnicity, and to show that it's really pretty even across the board. So I think a lot of people do have that misconception. So I thought it was really important to show this as well. And as I'm talking, if you have any questions or tips that you share with your students, please put them in the chat so we can discuss them at the end. I also thought this was super fascinating from College Board. So this kind of shows the undergraduate student aid in dollars by source and type all the way back from 2004 until now. And if you look, private and employer grants. So to me, that's kind of where your outside scholarships fall. They have stayed at anywhere between 5 to 7% since 2004. They have really stayed steady in how much goes towards a student total financial aid package in going to school. I thought it was really interesting to see kind of the institutional grants have almost doubled in how much they support students, and then federal loans have almost gone down by half of that as well. So I just thought it was really interesting to show over time private and employer grants have really stayed at the same level. So that's something students can know isn't probably going to change anytime soon because it hasn't changed in the past 20 years. Eric covered all this already, but I did just want to remind again, Tennessee, we don't do a whole lot of things super well, but we do financial aid really well for students. So I definitely want to highlight that. Of course, there are some groups that get left out of that, unfortunately, but that's why it's important to know about some safe programs students can apply for and safe schools that students can go to that do offer a lot of financial aid for them, but we do offer a lot of great aid for students in the state. Okay, this is kind of the bulk of what I want to talk about. This is a slide I actually do for students at school presentations when I go to and with parents, but I kind of changed it to how should we as counselors and people who work with students in the financial aid space shape this conversation? First and foremost, families have to have an honest conversation about money. And I think like that is the most important thing to stress. You all know this, but I think it's really crucial to put in your programming that you present to families. Maybe even have a past family come and talk about that if they're willing to share. But my parents, my freshman year of high school, looked at me and said, "Sweetheart, we are public school educators. We have no money for you to go to school. That's on you." And so I knew I had to use their state discount. I had to apply for scholarships. I had to go to a state school so I could use that discount. There was a lot that went into that consideration for my process. So families have to have honest conversations about what the family contribution is going to be for their schooling. This is the biggest thing I run into in reviewing applications in my job now. I tell students all the time, a committee member can only make a decision based on you by what you put in the application. If you spend 5 minutes on your application, you're not getting that scholarship. Now, do you have to have some sob story and go into all this detail for a committee? Not necessarily, but I always tell students, you want to give the committee enough information where they feel like they want to be your cheerleader without even having met you. So I think that's really important for students just to remember there's a human being that is going to read this application, and what I put in this is what they have to go off of. I think we get so much in the just motion of going and doing the process, applying, that we sometimes forget that. I kind of hit on return on investment, but again, I think that's really important for students to keep in mind. If you need to look at your scholarships and say, okay, which one is more worth my time to complete because I'm more likely to get? And I think this is something I did wrong as a counselor when I was on the high school side. I had a huge database that I would keep in a Google Doc for students to go through and look at all the scholarships that we had just found from all over the nation that kids could apply. What I should have also done was to have a sheet in that same Google Doc of scholarships that our own student body had received in the past 3 to 4 years, because I think those are the scholarships that your students are more likely to receive. So if that is the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee, because we have a lot of scholarships specifically for Metro Nashville Public School students, put how many of your kids got that one the past year. If you had 2 or 3 kids get Questbridge, put that that's a great one we need to look at. I think that's also an important piece to say, hey, here's our database of all the scholarships we're aware of, but here are also scholarships that our students have actually gotten in the past few years, because your likelihood of getting those scholarships is probably higher. We manage a ton of employer-based scholarships at the Community Foundation. We manage Dollar Generals, Genesco, Tractor Supply. We have companies reaching out to us all the time saying that they want to set up a scholarship. So I always tell students, ask where you work, ask where your parents work or your guardian if they offer scholarships. Of course, local businesses. This may be more for rural areas. I was from a rural area. I had a resume. I took it into every business that my parents did business at and was like, do you have a scholarship? My local bank and my church had scholarships, so I was able to apply for those. Now, one of those was not a renewable scholarship, which is really important for students to keep in mind too. And we'll hit on that in a minute, but students need to keep those things in mind. Is this funding that I'll have for all 4 years? Is this funding I have to reapply for each year? What does that look like? I've hit on scholarship database for previous awards. I think we think a lot of the times of having students come and talk about what college is like, and they talk about their classes, they talk about getting involved on campus, but we don't necessarily have them talk about the financial aspect. I know when I first started at Lead the year before, we had had a student go out to California. Everybody was so excited. We primarily served inner city, first gen, minority students. And we were so excited that this student went to California. They returned to us after a year and they were like, I couldn't afford everything out there. I could never come home and visit my family. I was struggling in school. It was not the right fit for that student. So I think having some of those stories to tell students of just what students have to go through with finances, what are things that they have to pay for on campus that you didn't think about. I think those stories are just as important as any of the other. This is where I think is some of the most important. So, talk to students about their aid packages. I discovered this year. We actually had a state school, I'll be nice and not say which one, but that we send a lot of money to every year for scholarships. They cash our scholarships in June, no, late June. By August, when the students' bills were due, they had still not applied it to the student's account and they were requiring the student to pay a bill. That is really not fair to the student in a lot of ways. I had parents calling me upset and I had to tell them, hey, we sent that back in June and it's already cleared our bank. It's sitting at that school. They have it. And parents were shocked because they were like, we thought it was just you hadn't sent it yet. Because of this, we've actually swapped to a new system where students, after they've been awarded from us, they can actually track in our dashboard when we have sent the scholarship, when it has cleared the system, all of that, so they can then have that conversation with their college and say, hey, I'm not paying this bill until you apply this scholarship for me. So just as much work as students do on the front end to apply for scholarships, they also have to make sure they're being applied properly to their accounts. Scholarship displacement, I think that's just a huge conversation to have with students. So many students are unaware of scholarship displacement and what that means, and that they have the opportunity to ask scholarship providers to send them a check directly instead of sending it to the school. Some companies can't do that. We are very fortunate enough that we can pay a student directly if they're experiencing displacement. We explain displacement in our award acceptance form so they understand what it is, and we can talk with them and look through it and see if they are being affected by that. But they have to know what this is so they're not losing out on the money that they have worked really hard for. Someone taught me this years ago, and I think it is one of the best things to do for students because financial aid packages look so different from school to school. You can use a color system on highlighting the financial aid package. So you can use green to highlight scholarships, money that the student doesn't have to pay back. You highlight in red loans that the student does eventually have to pay back. And so that way the student can better see what they are actually going to have to pay, because we all know schools include loans a lot of times in the institutional aid a student is getting, and so that can help them better understand the financial aid package. I think it's also just really important to stress to students. I think a lot of students think after the application process, I start applying for scholarships and then I can kind of glide through the rest of my senior year. We want you to have fun your senior year. We don't want you to have to work the whole time, but we also want this is your money. That's what I tell students all the time. If you have been awarded this money, this is your money. And so it's up to you to track it. It's up to you to make sure it's applied properly. And it's up to you to make sure you're making the best decision about it. Are you going to know every answer right now as a 17, 18-year-old kid? No. But that's why we're here to help too, to navigate some of these things. I wanted to hit on some local scholarships. So just like us, the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee, we also have the Community Foundation of Greater Memphis, the Community Foundation of Greater Chattanooga. Their scholarship coordinator is phenomenal there. She's so great. We have the Scarlett Family Foundation, which is here locally in Nashville, but it serves Middle Tennessee counties. And then, of course, we have the Equal Chance for Education Scholarship that is a really friendly program for undocumented students. So I just wanted to highlight these because I think too, like, let's say your students are going to attend UTC Chattanooga. They may want to look at the Community Foundation of Greater Chattanooga, see if they should apply, if they have any scholarships for students who are attending UTC. That may be a great resource for them. And the East Tennessee Community Foundation. There's one in Upper East Tennessee as well. I think community foundations are really like kind of hidden gem for people to apply for scholarships because again, those have been set up for people locally. One great thing about the Community Foundation of Greater Chattanooga, they actually have an emergency fund for students as well. So say they're in college, they have an electric bill that they're not going to be able to pay, and that's going to cause them to drop out of school. They can apply for that emergency funding. That is something we are exploring at the Community Foundation. It's something our CEO definitely wants us to be able to provide for students. We just need to get the funding. So hopefully, if y'all know anyone who wants to donate to something, let me know. But those are some local programs. I did want to hit on ours just really quickly again. We have the one application that students can be considered for over 160 different scholarship funds. Our average award is $2,500. I always tell our students our scholarship is supplemental. It's not going to cover your full tuition, it's not going to cover your full bill, but it can definitely help with some things because we write our money to total cost of attendance. Um, and then we have about 15% of our recipients who receive more than one fund. And they're the dates. We notify them on April 15th and then send checks out to the school in late July. A couple of stats too, just about our program. I already hit about 15%. Our funds do range from $500 to $8,000, depending on the student's financial aid package and what the fund has for the spendable each year. We have about 35% of our students who are renewal students. I will tell you right now, right before I actually came on to present this, I was tracking our renewal applications in the system. We have right at 280 renewable students this year. And I checked this morning, and only 170 of them have filled out their renewal application, which is simply just uploading an updated transcript. It takes them literally 5 minutes, and we have sent them at least like 4 emails. So I think another thing is too, like reminding students of the simple steps it takes to make sure you keep this money year to year. We send our funding to about 160 colleges nationwide, and we are a safe application for DACA and undocumented students. So that's kind of what I had to share. I really kind of wanted to open it up to the group to see if anybody has any other tips or tricks or questions that they have about scholarships. I see if a student is going to a school that we know practices displacement and they apply for your scholarship, should they still honestly report the scholarship to the college? That's a great question, Justin. And in our award letter that we send to students, so if they are selected for one of our scholarships, they have to select in the scholarship acceptance form if they are going to experience displacement. Now, y'all, we have a lot of students click that and they're not experiencing displacement. So I have a conversation with that student and say, hey, you are, or hey, you aren't. If we confirm that they are, we will pay them directly. And in our letter, we say that it is your responsibility to follow that institution's outside scholarship policy. Are we going to follow up and check on that? No, we are not. So that is up to the student's discretion. And I would say that most students would understand if we are paying them directly, we are trying to help them avoid that situation too. Now, a lot of scholarship providers are looking, I know Scarlet Family pays through 529 plans right now. We are potentially looking at that as well. However, that is not an option for our undocumented students. So I don't know that we will swap to that. Our students, so of course, if we do pay them directly, they will receive information from us on taxes when it comes to file your taxes. But typically our students are receiving, again, ours are receiving supplemental amounts, so it's typically not a large enough amount where they would have to include it with their taxes. That's what we've experienced so far. But Justin, that's really up to the student to decide how they want to follow that policy. Good question, though. Oh, I see the Ann's put in a resource. I love College Essay Guy. Y'all, he is so, I see so many counselors out here trying to recreate the wheel about stuff, and he already has it all done. So just go to his website because he has a great scholarship tracker too that's phenomenal for students to use. And it's just a really, really great resource. I like the paying for college rather than just using financial aid and scholarships because I think I used to have students all the time ask me, Miss P, how do I get that full ride? And I used to say you can only get it if you can throw a ball. And that is still semi-true. But you can get it if you piece all of these things together. But like I showed earlier, if your piecing together becomes this 12 square plot for a quilt, that's going to stress you out the whole time you're in college having to reapply for all of those things. So, I just think it's really more realistic for a student to have 3 to 4 kind of areas that they're pulling funding from to pay for college. What other questions do we have, guys? Or what other tips did I not hit that anybody has?
I'll plug the net price calculator. I mean, Kelly, you
Yeah.
mentioned it earlier, you'll sit with students and it was, what was the phrase that you used on your slide? Just having that realistic conversation of how
Mhm.
much college is actually going to cost. And as long as students have the pre ACT scores and they have a really good idea of what their GPA is. And I mean, the net price calculator, if you want to play around with it, you certainly can. You can put multiple profiles in. So if you know what your test scores are, but you know what your current GPA is, but then you have a hope of what your GPA is that you're going to land at the end of your high school career, you can plug both of those profiles in to get this really good window of an estimated cost. So just
Yeah.
reminding families that that's a really great tool to utilize on each and every college's website, to really get that realistic picture if you're really not even sure where to even start,
Hmm.
in terms of the affordability conversation of the schools on the list.
Great point. Justin, I'm trying to but most people on this call know I'm not always politically correct, so I'm just going to go for it. Um, Years ago, the state of Tennessee got the closest it has ever gotten to approving for undocumented students to receive in-state tuition. I feel very safe saying that that vote is not going to come to the floor anytime again soon. The leadership that we have now and probably will transition to, that would not be a priority for. And I think when you then add the layer of our current culture climate for undocumented and DACA students, it is a scarier time than ever to, I think, go through this process. And I think we all know that a cultural kind of norm of that population too is a lot of them want their students to stay close. They are an extremely family oriented population of people. And so I always struggled in getting students to apply for some of your programs like a Quest Bridge that are really great for undocumented DACA students, especially that have the academic profile to apply for some of those programs. But in today's political climate, I think it's harder and harder to get those students to consider going away right now. Um, I will also say, and I can say this because I have written it out in an email to the Equal Chance for Education Foundation. It is a wonderful program for students. However, they have not increased their scholarships in quite some time, and school is becoming more and more expensive, especially the options that are available for that population of students. So, I'm helping a student right now. I'm her ECE mentor. She goes to Belmont. Belmont has increased its tuition every single year, and right now those students are only getting 3,500 each semester to go to the school, and the rest is on them. So, I think it is still a great option for a lot of students, but again, they have to remember that they sign a contract saying that they're responsible for the rest of the price of whatever comes up for that school. So the student may need to also think when you're having those conversations with them about applying for ECE, hey, this is what the price of the school is right now, but it could go up so much each year, and we've got to keep that in mind. I mean, the student I'm helping right now, her mom sells tamales at construction work sites. There's no dad in the picture. That she had like a $2,000 balance on her account even after all of her scholarship funding. The student is a 4.0 student at Belmont in the graphic design program, I think. Phenomenal student. But was probably going to have to drop out. Luckily, her high school that she went to has an emergency fund for alumni, and they were able to help her out. And we were able to use the Persist emergency fund to help her out. But again, we were piecing things together for this student, and that's not sustainable. So, I'm not trying to be like a Debbie Downer for this population right now, but I just do think you have to be very honest with your students who are in that situation so they can think about all their options in the most clear and safe way for themselves and their families.
Something that I've also been leading into more, not just with, our undocumented and DACA students, but just all students in general when it comes to the scholarship conversation as well, is I feel like seniors and juniors need to rely on their communities a lot more in their
Mhm.
local communities.
Yep.
I've always been, big fan of sending students to these national websites where they list all of these scholarships. But to be completely honest, I've never had a student ever come back to me and be like, yeah, I was awarded the $5,000 scholarship that I applied to on FastWeb.
Mhm.
But going to award ceremonies at the high schools in my territory, there are students that rack up numerous scholarships from the local community. I think also students need to lean into what their future professions are.
Mhm.
I tell students that are thinking about engineering or medical-based professions, go to the local hospitals, go to the clinics, go to the engineering firms,
Mhm.
schedule a meeting, talk with someone in their human resource department. It's a heavy ask, and it's probably going to be the biggest ask that a 17 or 18-year-old is probably ever going to make in their entire life. But it's not shameful. If they are wanting an education in a field that is of someone who's already in the field, everybody's just going to want to help everybody out and perpetuate that field. And to me, when you go to those local businesses or those local industries and you ask someone to be like, hey, I'm a future student in this area and I'm wanting to go to college to perpetuate this field and make it bigger and better than what it already is, I can't see someone turning away that bright and very deserving student. And if it's something that pans out in the long run, it's a win-win because it's a tax write-off for the business and it's a scholarship for a student. So I think we have to normalize that ask of, just
Mhm.
knocking on some doors and sending emails and letters, and utilize AI to help your students come up with those really well polished letters, to really doubt on themselves, to tote on themselves. Yeah, that's what I've
Sure.
been leaning into with my students, especially for the undocumented and DACA students.
Mhm.
Like, there's no shame in having a sponsor.
Mhm.
Like most colleges and universities, if it's a private scholarship, we're not asking where the money is coming
Mhm.
from. We're just going to receive that check and, put it towards the bill to cover whatever
Mhm.
balance is remaining. So those are all things that students can absolutely look into.
Two things I want to add really quickly, Trish. One thing you just said, working with donors on the other side of that, I cannot tell y'all how many times I have donors email me or call me and say, hey, we have a student that kind of reached out to us about this situation, and we've never thought about having a scholarship, but we want to set one up now. And that's typically how they get set up. So I think that's a great point to add. One other thing to add, you kind of mentioned, Trish, that y'all aren't looking at scholarships that are coming in. We are experiencing that some colleges are looking at that. and I'm not trying to call that out, or just because of the recent DEI policies that are happening at different schools. So one thing that I left out that I do want to say, we actually, as the Community Foundation, started a partnership with TSU and Fisk locally, that any of their students that get one of our scholarships, we also pay them directly. So that's not even a displacement situation. That is just because historically so many of those funds have been set up to help underrepresented populations or marginalized populations. And so we have been working with those universities in a 3-year agreement to pay students directly. If we hear of any other situations, we will start doing that. But I was actually on a webinar the other day that we are going to start when we send our checks. We have always said the name of the scholarship the student gets from us. We are not going to do that anymore. We are just going to say the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee Scholarship, because we don't also want to put the schools in jeopardy if they were to get audited for those situations. So I just want to bring up that that is something that a ton of scholarship providers are looking into, because again, it's the students' money. We want to make sure they get it, and we'll do anything we can to make sure that happens. So just something to bring up there as well. Do you have any questions or anything? Y'all, I used to think scholarships were so boring and there was no change to them. There are changes every day. My goodness. It's a fascinating area.
It's a strenuous process, and I mean, you also hit on the nail on the head earlier in the presentations, and something that's been mentioned too is we recognize what's on the student's plate. Like they're involved in activities, they're caretaking for families, they're working themselves. But the importance is that if a student truly wants that full ride,
Hmm.
it's gonna take the effort and the time, but we can provide the resources and make it a little bit easier so that they don't have to go searching and finding for those. So, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And for a lot of you who are on this call, a lot of you are very privileged with a small caseload, or you're able to have those one-on-one conversations. For those of you who have a very large caseload and just don't have the capacity to maybe help students with those scholarship questions, that is what I'm here for. I can come to school, do presentations. If students have questions that you're just not able to answer because you're also dealing with 5 other million things, send them my way. That I am more than happy to answer any of those questions or help advise in that situation.
Shameless plug, but Kelly's the best to work with. So, yes, please send your students
Very
to her.
sweet.
Amazing. If there are not any other questions in the chat, again, we will make all this information posted on the website within the next couple weeks, so you can always follow up. Everybody's contact will be there and available. I just have some housekeeping notes to cover up before we conclude. So hang in there with me for a few more moments. Let me present this. So first and foremost, thank you all for, oh, I clicked through. SACAC is Southern ACAC. SACAC is a wonderful organization, and I have now been a privileged member for the last few years, and I was part of the New England ACAC prior to moving down here to Tennessee a few years ago. They are a enormous resource for the membership, and for Southern ACAC, please, if you are not a member, please become a member. For our public schools and our CBOs, counselors and staff members that are being utilized as a resource to help students find post-secondary options, you can get free memberships to Southern ACAC. So if there are members on your team that are not members, or colleagues of yours that are not members in the state of Tennessee, please encourage them to visit the website, check us out, check out all the resources. And if those are things that are of interest, please encourage them to use that free access membership. And there's of course more information about it right on the SACAC website. Um, these are just a few of the upcoming events that Southern ACAC will be hosting this year that I think is pertinent to our Tennessee residents and just also the whole Southeast. So we have our Tennessee Voices in Action, which is a workshop that's really going to be designed to really help advance policies, promote access, and to provide our greater school counseling population a bigger voice within the state. Usually we've had our like day on the Hill, our legislative day on the Hill, but this year it's going to be a virtual event. So hopefully this will be more accessible to more of our Tennesseans across the state. And it'll be held for a couple of hours coming up in my thing is blocking that. So let me move that in February 9th. We also have our annual conference. It's being held in New Orleans this year, which is super exciting. I will be attending, so I hope to see many of our familiar Tennesseans in New Orleans to celebrate another great year and to definitely connect and to network and to share all the great resources and information that is constantly evolving and updating in our field. And that's going to be held at the end of March on the 22nd and the 23rd. And then lastly, the other event that I just want to plug is Summer Seminar. So Summer Seminar is kind of like our rookie camp. Any new staff members on the admission side or the school counseling side, CBO, if you are interested in connecting with fantastic faculty that have had years of experience in the field and want to learn more about the profession, the climate of the industry, the future of higher education, all of the above. Summer Seminar is a fantastic program. It has been held in the Nashville area at Belmont and Vanderbilt these last couple years. And it'll be held this summer, July 14th through the 17th. Those applications are fastly approaching. They're going to be closing on February 13th. So if that is of interest to you, definitely hop to the SACAC website and fill out one of those applications. And again, thank you all. We're ready to wrap up, so enjoy the rest of your afternoons. Go grab some lunch. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any additional questions or need anything from us about regarding the drive-in workshop, if you have future ideas, please reach out to Hannah or I. Follow us on socials. And of course, if there's everything you need from the organization, always reach out. I feel like I've always gotten really great, fantastic, fast responses from the organization, which is always greatly appreciated. So definitely, if y'all need anything, you just let us know. So thank you again, and hope to see you at annual conference coming up in March. Hannah, any closing words?
Just thank you all for taking time out of your morning today. I know it's a busy week. If you were affected by the ice storms last week, I feel like I have hit the ground running and have barely come up to breathe. So thank you everyone for the work that you're doing with our students. And I hope we can give you a little bit of time back this morning to, of course, open your door and see what walks into it as far as students and situations go. So best of luck and thank you for joining us this morning.
And lastly, of course, thank you to all of our amazing presenters, Kelly, Samantha, Eric, and Carly. They were fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today. Awesome.
My pleasure.
All right, so we'll wrap up. That's a wrap.
All right.
Thanks for joining, everyone. Have a great day. Stay warm, although it is warming up, which is really great. I've never been happier to have a 50-degree day yesterday, even though